and I was wondering, so we saw yesterday that the SEC for about, I think it's the second time, but it seems like the millionth time, they're trying to apply some kind of privilege to this list of emails by Bill Hinman, where it seems like he kind of incriminated the SEC on their decision making on what is considered a security and what is not. I was wondering, what's your take on how many times the SEC can go back and forth applying different privileges to these documents?
Well, I would just have to say I have never seen one issue relitigated so many times in such a bizarre, contradictory fashion. I will say I had to go back, and what everybody needs to remember is this whole thing started last year in like March or April of 2021, and we are still arguing over a discovery issue in April of 2022. I mean, that is almost unheard of. So I did have to go back, and in the original order, Judge Netburn did say, hey, there's no deliberative process privilege, but I'm not going to touch attorney-client privilege for right now. So they actually do have the ability to re-argue that. And that's why they kind of held it in the back, because it was another delay tactic that they kind of had in their back pocket. What's going to be so hard for the SEC is that they already committed it to it being Bill Hinman's personal opinion. So I don't know how they're going to argue. Well, I mean, they did argue. I guess I do know how, it's in the brief, but they have argued now that he was the client of the SEC and he was just getting legal advice. And I don't think the judge is going to buy it, just because they've already said it wasn't SEC related. It was his personal opinion. So I don't see how on earth that's going to get by. I do have to dive into it a little more, but you know, the key thing also is that Judge Netburn said in her ruling, hey, here is one example of something that you could redact. So that means that she was saying, here's one example, also indicating do not try and say everything is attorney-client privilege. So I don't think it's going to go anywhere, but I do think it's going to delay everything, which is why I don't think we're going to get a result from Judge Torres on this till midsummer, like July 2022.
Okay, and after they go through this whole attorney-client privilege attempt, is there other attempts that you know of that they could say, all right, there's this other privilege we now want you to review, or is attorney-client kind of their last hope of trying to... I mean, at this point, it looks a lot more like delay, but how many more times can they run through this, because this is already the second time?
Well, they don't have any more legal arguments. I'm pretty sure. I'll have to double check the pleadings. But again, I've mentioned this a couple of times. If Torres denies it, then they can say, we got to appeal this to the Second Circuit because it's so important. And at that point, which I think will be sometime in July, the Second Circuit will either say, we're not even going to hear this. This is not something we're going to hear right now. And then it's over for all intents and purposes. Or the Second Circuit says, okay, we'll hear this. You do your briefing first, SEC, and then Ripple, your briefing comes, a couple months later. Second Circuit takes generally 7 to 9 months to hear things. So if the Second Circuit accepts it, we're pushing everything back on that issue only, not on summary judgment, not on anything else, but on that issue only, another 9, 10 months. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they would try and appeal to the Second Circuit, but I think the Second Circuit would say, no, we're not going to hear this.
So is it the Second Circuit who makes that decision, or can Judge Torres say, look, there's no point in sending this to the Second Circuit? Who ultimately makes the call if it makes it to the Second Circuit or not?
So what my understanding is, and it gets a little bit into some local rules that I'm not 100% sure on, but from what I understand is that they ask Torres first, and she can say yes or no. And that kind of changes the procedural history a little bit if the district judge allows it. But if the district judge says no, they can still appeal anyway under kind of a different legal route. And then, so the Second Circuit can make its decision anyway without Torres saying yes or no. But obviously, SEC, if Judge Torres says no, you can't appeal this, they put that in the procedural history. So the Second Circuit, has that knowledge, being like, oh, the district court said they couldn't appeal under this procedure. Now SEC is trying this other one. You know, it just is another thing they'll consider, like, we're not going to get involved in this discovery issue.
Yeah, it's kind of hard for me to imagine they would want to, because it seems kind of clear cut the way Judge Torres sees it. Whether the SEC wants to apply all these legal definitions to the emails, it seems like she wants those emails to get over to Ripple. Just from like a low level understanding, it seems like she's trying to get those emails to Ripple. And it seems like, I mean, the SEC hasn't really given themselves a good ground to stand on here, because it seems like they're pretty incriminating just by how hard they're trying to prevent these from going over. So it's kind of hard for me to imagine a Second Circuit court just jumping in and completely contradicting all these filings and all these reports that Judge Torres and Nutburn have already kind of said about this. I wanted to bring this up, though. This is from someone on Twitter, and this directly has to do with the attorney-client privilege. I'm not sure if you saw this, but in one of the footnotes, the SEC actually says that the emails were sent to this guy, Brett Redfern, who is not an attorney. So these emails were actually sent to a non-attorney, and this was in one of the footnotes of the SEC's filing. So do you think that would be a big issue for them claiming attorney-client privilege if these emails were originally sent out to people who weren't even attorneys?
There's always like little exceptions here or there, but the general rule is once you go outside of that attorney-client relationship, and I did read everything last night when it came out, but I don't have instantaneous recall on it yet.
Yeah,
I don't exactly know who the Redfern guy is, but yeah, if he's not a lawyer, you break the chain. And again, there's some exceptions, you can kind of get around that, but it's always terrible when that happens. So I think that's one issue, but I think the biggest issue again is just that Hinman, it was his personal opinion, and the SEC went down that track. And, you know, I think that's that in this situation.
So do you think that was a mistake by the SEC saying that was his personal opinion, or do you think they knew they were going to try to bounce in between these two arguments and just try to create some ambiguity and sneak through with whatever the heck they're trying to do here?
You know, I don't think the SEC is stupid. So I do think they had some type of thought process go on behind closed doors. But I think at the end of the day, you know, they thought, geez, if we don't say it's his personal opinion, then it's the SEC's opinion. And then if they get these emails, then it'll be absolutely 100% clear that we had no idea what was going on with digital assets. And, you know, we said, well, let me sidetrack here, because I think what's in those emails, you know, I was 90% confident when they started fighting it. Then I got 95% confident. And then with this last filing, I'm 100% confident that those emails are essentially something like, and again, remember, this is 2018. So it's a different top 10 crypto list, but it's something like, hey, Bill, of all the altcoins, you only mentioned Ethereum. You know, why not Litecoin? Why not XRP? It doesn't seem like there's a real reason. And, you know, he's got a response saying like, well, because, or just some terrible, you know, idea or some nonsensical response. And then there's multiple emails after that that say, well, that doesn't make any sense because they're all the same for this reason. So how can you say Ethereum, but not any of the other coins? And he's like, well, it's personal. I mean, it's just some ridiculous thing.
It's going to be come out to lunch with me and I'll tell you the answer.
Yeah, exactly. Go out to lunch.
I'll do it not over email though. We'll do it out to lunch. That way no one knows my logic.
Yeah, he's like, well, let's have a live discussion of this later on today. Or wait, hold on. This is what the memo said from Simpson Thatcher. You know, like where they did their own, you know, they just passed over what he said so they could specifically target XRP. So that is definitely what's in that email. And I mean, now it's becoming so ridiculous that I'm starting to think there might actually be even worse things in there, like actual conversations with the Simpson Thatcher people or relayed from these other people that actually goes even farther and says, we can't let XRP be considered a non-security. I mean, even because, hey, we're competing with them. Like, it could be that bad.
Yeah, well, something I thought was like really interesting is the fact that one of the Ripple lawyers, Matt Solomon, he actually said in one of the briefings, and these emails could possibly contain information about XRP. Almost as if he knew that those emails did contain information about XRP. And the reason that's so interesting for me is so many people on Ripple's litigation team came from the SEC. So I question if there's people on Ripple's legal team who were on that email chain and know exactly, or saw that exact email chain and knows exactly what's in those emails. They're just trying to bring it into the court so the court can make the decision on it.
Yeah, I when that came out, that little side note, I wasn't as sold on it as some other attorneys. Like, he knew that for sure. I mean, it's definitely a possibility, but, and I also forgot that a couple other people on Ripple's team were SEC related. So I knew Solomon, I knew Mary Jo. I forgot Sersney. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right. I forgot he was on there. With all those emails, I don't think they're actually on them because of the timing. I think the last one left was 2016. But in any event, I guarantee they had conversations about XRP from 2012 to 2016 when they left. So they knew it was going on, and they knew the SEC was talking about XRP. But I mean, yeah, John brought it up. John Deaton brought it up in one of his emails. I wish I put something out on Twitter earlier, because he basically, you know, I mean, everybody was thinking this, but it came out in the last filing is, you know, where they said, we've got two, you know, they had two other cryptos that are pending consideration. You know, that's exactly what, you know, most of us thought was in the emails, is that something went back and forth, kind of like, well, if that's Ethereum, why not, you know, this crypto, or why not that crypto? And, you know, they basically came out and said that in that last filing. So, you know, that's what all the emails are about, and they're hugely damaging.